back to the Neil Haley Show, and I have the first time ever a definition I do not know, especially talking about specific things. So I'm excited to work with the program, Cathy Lins, and she's going to talk about shadow stories. And first of all, I'm just going to say that's the perfect topic. So what is a shadow story? That's the perfect way to start the show. How are you?
Hi there, thanks. It's funny because it all came to me one day when I was actually watching the musical Wicked, because I don't know about you, but I grew up with Wizard of Oz. I was just like, hey, I know about the witches and the shoes. But when I watched Wicked, I was like, wait a minute. The story I thought I knew was not actually what was going on. The whole background there with the witches of the things that they were best friends, and yet that didn't show up in the show. It was like there was a whole nother conversation of what was going on, what things they were willing to share, to see. And it was that moment as I watched it, I said to myself, oh my gosh, that's exactly what we all do. We all have parts we hide. And it was real for me because it's been something I've dealt with most of my life. I'm an adult survivor of years of child abuse. That's not something that I was actually willing to talk about with most places. And yet it's the conversation of when I stopped hiding, I suddenly had power. I had the ability to live my life fully. And it's an incredible feeling to have the chance to do that. That's those shadow stories that we keep hiding them. We don't want anyone to see it. And when we can truly be in that place of actually living it, knowing that it's not just that wound we carry anymore, but the badge that we carry, have, it's all a different thing.
All right, so shadow stories, and that's the thing that we act like we're living this unbelievable life. Everything's fine, but we're not going to others and telling them. Who do we talk to? That's the question I'm asking, Cathy. So if we're going and we're, let's think of somebody like Robin Williams. He was, he seemed the happiest in the world. We found out how dark a life he was living. That would be an example.
And most of the time they don't. That's the thing. That's what's really derailing most of our lives. We feel like we have to hide it, that it can't be shown. I've seen this again and again as I've talked with women business owners, because that's who I'm working with. They're like, how did you know about this? How did you know about it? And I'm like, I need to only look at the statistics. I can see what the tendencies are for women. What are the struggles that they have? And in the process of doing that, I said, it's actually taking the time to own it. The question that I found really helpful with when I work with my clients is I say, let's start with like, where are you at right now? What's the good in your life? What's the bad in your life? Right. Who are you because of those things? And for the first time, people have actually stopped and considered like both sides actually contributed and built on who they actually are. And in that moment, they're like, wow. Because most of the time it's like, I want that buried. I don't want that dealt with. And I'm like, do you realize it's tripping you up everywhere you go? The best example I can give of this is like when I came to that old point in my life, I actually turned to some friends, some colleagues, and I told them what my background was. And they said, oh, Cathy, we've known that for years. That was obvious in everything that you do. And I'm like, what? Like, how could that be? I've hit that so hard. And they're like, no, you didn't. And they're like, we didn't know exactly what it was, but we knew there was something. And it drives every time you talk about someone, how you work with someone, it influences it because you're trying so hard to hide. And it was just that wake up moment.
Exactly. So when you're telling somebody that, right, you don't just tell the therapist, you're telling your friends too, right? This is not.
That's up to each person to where they want to go, how much they want to share.
But how much you share makes you feel better, right? Having somebody to not stop holding in some of the things and the challenges and trials, having someone that you can tell firsthand your fears, your hopes, your dreams. That's very hard, even the person that you're next to in life, that you could have been married to, your kids or different things. Really kind of, if you can get to that point and admit, hey, this is really what's bothering me. How does that help your mental health?
Well, it helps your mental health because it's actually a sense of freedom. But I'm going to take everything that you just pointed to. When I talk about it causing wreckage in your life, it's in your work, people feel like they can't trust you. So they're not going to do business with you. It's, do you have a significant other who's by your side? Because they feel like they can't connect to you. So it's really like realizing this is what is happening. Here's the wreckage in my life. Do I want that to continue, or do I want something different? And I think a moment that I had at one point working with a group, I had someone stop me once afterwards and they said, Cathy, I've never seen anyone so comfortable in their own skin. And I thought, wow, because that is not how I would have described myself up to that point. But imagine what it's like to be able to live in a space where you're comfortable in your own skin. There's nothing to hide. And it no longer has power over you. That's a powerful place to be.
I love it. It's and the shadow stories in life. And I think that drives you nuts on Facebook when you see people that are depressed. Not so here's another connection to that shadow story. The ones that are giving a story of their life that really isn't their life at all. But what about the people that are living those people's lives through their lives, and those lives aren't correct either? So they're thinking they're seeing the perfect person yet, and they feel bad about themselves when really that person's feeling the same as they are.
And they have no idea, because that's not the side we show.
All right.
Imagine don't have to worry about it anymore.
That's great, Cathy. Where's the best place people can connect with you and learn about you? And definitely if they're a business person to work with you, where can they go?
Email me at Cathy@dev-plus.com. That's DEV-plus.com.
All right. Well, thanks again, Cathy, for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.